good, Shalomies? Welcome back to another episode of Shalomies 2 Homies, musing on the theology of Shalom. I am one part of this conversation. I'm Yana, Janae Connor, and then we have Elizabeth Woodson with us. Liz, say hi to the people.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Yeah, and I'm excited today, y'all, because my good friend Lisa V. Fields is in the building. I'm so excited. Lisa, we're so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Hey, if you don't know Lisa, I'm so grateful to be the one to introduce you to her. Lisa V. Fields, she is the founder and president of the Jude 3 Project, which is an organization committed to Black apologetics, helping people to know what they believe and why they believe it. Lisa, you've been doing this work for about, 10 years now?
Yeah, 12 years.
12 years.
12 years this year.
Yeah, and you've been doing the work. You've been doing the work. You've curated conversations like Why I Don't Go to sort of address why there's been this great drift in folks not going to church anymore. And then you also are doing tours on HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, reaching this next generation and addressing some of the questions that they have. And Lisa, one of my favorite things about you is how you do apologetics. And so I think a lot of times when we think about apologetics, we think, high, intellectual, brainy, nerdy, kind of things. But you really honor the whole person, that you remember that we are social, that we are emotional, and that you help folks navigate sort of the moments of when faith disappoints, and so that's another one of your books. And I'm so excited about this new book that you have written. It's called When Heroes Fall, Healing from the Aftermath of Sin. Sis, I'm just, just one of my heroes, maybe a couple of weeks ago, was in the news, and you get the text, you get the email, just the notification that another person who has led in a significant way in ministry has experienced a moral failure. And so this book is so needed. This book is so timely. But before we jump into that, I just want to share my own fun facts about Lisa. Cause Lisa is my friend, y'all. Just 2 hours before we jumped on this call, we were talking to Kiki, and Lisa's a prayer warrior. She's a prayer warrior. Lisa, before we get off the phone, Lisa's like, all right, let me pray. And I'm like, okay. And you know how some people, you think they just gonna it's gonna be a little quick prayer. No, Lisa starts praying for my mama. She starts praying for my relationships. I'm like, oh, well, let me just go ahead and get on my knees then. But Lisa's also a goofball, which I love about you as well, just because you are also a very serious person. You know how to handle business, but you also have this lightheartedness to you that is really, really refreshing. What are some other maybe fun facts about you that you think people would be surprised to hear about you?
What's very astonishing? One of my favorite movies always is shocking to people. Because what would you think one of my favorite movies is?
Something like Shawshank Redemption or something.
New Jack City.
You know what? That tracks. That actually tracks.
That just opens up a lot more in my mind, Lisa, for who you are.
Oh, man. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably with us. New Jack City. Next time, I don't really... Have you seen that movie, Liz?
I have seen that movie.
I don't remember it. Who's in it?
Wesley Snipes.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the most prominent figure.
Okay, next time I come
Chris
to
Rock.
DC, we're going to have to cue that up.
Yeah.
So I can...
And my favorite rapper is Jay-Z, which I talk about Jay-Z in the book. So things people wouldn't naturally know. And
you have a favorite
I really like Big
song
Sean.
Or album?
Kingdom Come I really liked.
Yeah, no, JC is deep. He's a complex individual. So I totally get the interest there. I've listened to a few of his albums on repeat, just trying to understand the psychology, of how he thinks. And yeah, no, I love that. I love that. See, look at us helping people to know more about Lisa. Yeah. Well, Lisa, you wrote this book. When Heroes Fall. It's a guide for those wrestling with faith in the aftermath of a ministry leader's sin. And anytime somebody writes a book, I'm curious of the origin story. Like I want to know where this came from. And so I would love it if you could just share maybe what was going on in your own life. And then even what was maybe some things that you were seeing culturally that prompted you to write this book.
Yeah. So 2020, my hero died. And then a few months later, it came out that he was abusing, that during his life, he had abused women, sexually abused women. And I remember getting that. First, I got it via a message from someone on Twitter at the time. It's now X. And I remember seeing it, and it was like a blog. So it wasn't like a news article, like it was just a blog. And they sent it to me, and I read it, and I was like, this isn't true. Like, I just was like, this can't be true. That was my first thought because, one, it was from a blog, and I know people, that's not vetted information. And then the things that they were saying just didn't track. Like, I was like, I don't know about this. But then the news came out more broadly from credible sources. And I was just like, oh, this is real. And so just trying to navigate those moments and being kind of shocked, because as I say in the book, one of the things that he told me personally was make sure your public and private life match. And so it's like, yo, like, what is this? Like, this is like, it's one thing for you to hear a sermon from someone to say, live with integrity. And it's another for somebody to look you in your eye and tell you, make sure your public and private life match. While they know during that time, theirs didn't.
Yeah, that's tough.
And so just those emotions, navigating that, and then seeing how people responded to some, like the pendulum of responses. Like on one extreme, there was people who were like, throw all his books away. Like there were people who were taking pictures of like, oh, I put his book in the trash. And it's like, why would you record that? Like, it was like, to me, extreme responses. And then it was like, on the other end, it was, no, he couldn't have done this. It was complete denial. And it was a complete just diminish, throw away any contributions. And so it was kind of, how do I navigate this? How do I respond in a healthy way without harming people processing publicly?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the origin story of that.
Yeah, friend, I was really proud of how vulnerable you were in this book. Like in every chapter, you are really just like putting your hurt, your pain, your confusion, your process, and even like the work that you had to do to heal and get to the other side of that. Like you're putting that on every single page. And I was like, oh wow, Lisa, you're being really vulnerable here. But one of the things that as I was reading your book, y'all go get the book. It's a good book. But as I was reading your book, I started to realize like that for you, this person wasn't in some parasocial reality. Like this was somebody that you actually knew, that you had face-to-face interactions with, that was mentoring you in a sense, and who God had used in significant ways, afar and in person, in your life. And I was thinking about how important it is, even when we're having this conversation around hero, like to keep in mind that there might be like 3 different kinds of hero hurt, like there's the hero hurt that happens when it's this parasocial reality. It's someone you follow on the internet. You listen to their sermons, you listen to their music, right? And then there's the in real life hero, right? Like this is somebody maybe y'all go to church together, or maybe you're part of like a network of churches together, something like that. And then there's the hero who hurt me, right? Like who actually did disrupt my shalom in a particular way. And I just would love to hear from y'all, like, why do you think it's important for us, even when we have this conversation, to maybe keep those sort of categories in view?
Yeah, I think one is it's impacting people on different levels. So I give the example in the book of like, if my cousin cheats on his wife, like what I need to overcome in that dynamic is different than what his wife has to overcome. From a distance, it's like, oh, cuz like I'm going to confront you and be like, that's wrong. You need to tell your wife. And my ability to move on with my cousin is way easier than his wife's ability to move on with him, because she was betrayed on a deeper level, right? There are layers of impact in each thing. So with my hero, there's his family that's impacted, his employees that are impacted, and that those who are analyzing his sermons from afar that are impacted. And then those are being mentored by. So it hits people on different levels. And so sometimes we overreach, or we diagnose. It's like if I was to go into my cousin's wife and be like, man, I got over it, you should. Well, hold on, Lisa. Like, that's a different, like, you weren't really betrayed. Like, you felt you were disappointed, but you weren't betrayed.
Yeah,
like,
that's good.
He betrayed vows with his wife. You were disappointed because you expected better behavior from your cousin. Those are two different offenses.
Liz, I would love to hear from you, just kind of like, because we talk about the parasocial reality a lot offline. Pretty unfilteredly. And you even hit on this, like in Habits of Resistance, of just, how inundated we are with our phones and content. And even on Starting Place, you talked about like how discipleship isn't supposed to be, disembodied. I love it when you say that. And so I just would be curious to hear, like, because many of us, our heroes are in this parasocial reality, what are some things you think we need to keep in mind to even keep us from exalting them to this place of being a hero?
Yeah, I think when we remember that it's this parasocial relationship, I think it helps us have appropriate expectations for what somebody's responsibilities are to us. Because when we see somebody online, you don't know that person. You know their most curated moments, their best clips. You know the best side of their face, that the photos are filtered, like they got a good photographer. You know them at their best. We really don't know people. We don't know how they treat their family. We don't know if they're actually doing the things they tell us. We know that they're really charismatic. It doesn't mean that those things aren't true, but we will put people on these pedestals as if we wouldn't say that they're God, but they're a little bit close to it. And so when their life takes a turn, when they do something we don't like, we can have a response to me that's not appropriate for the role that person plays in our life. So I can still be hurt. I can be disappointed. But sometimes a level of vitriol, or maybe the throwaway tendency people have, it's like, your relation with this person was strictly through a screen. And so how does that connect with when they step out of line? How do we respond to that? There still is a response, but that's different than if it is my pastor who I see face to face every week, who was showing up to my house to give me communion when I was sick. Like, that's a totally different situation. And sometimes we can confuse the two. And I even got thoughts on who we think our pastor actually is when that pastor is through a screen and he doesn't know you exist. But that's not today's podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I see you filtering over there. But yeah, I think it's so interesting how we make a hero out of someone who does not even know our name. like they do not, and we give them access to speak into our lives in very authoritative ways, and they don't know our name. We don't have their phone number. We haven't seen like how they handle conflict. Like we haven't seen them in real life. And Lisa, you talk about this in your book, and I think this is really the downfall of social media, is that we see a lot of people through this halo effect. And so can you talk a little bit about the halo effect and even the horn effect that you share about in your book?
Yeah. The halo effect is speaking to what y'all have just been talking about. Like this idea that you assume good about a person or assume strengths because you had a positive interaction with them, even via screen. So it's like, oh man, like I use my heroes, for instance, before I knew him in person, I knew him through a screen. I knew him through a podcast. I knew him through sermons. And because the sermons were so helpful, it felt like he rescued me when I was shipwrecked because of my doubts that I was having in undergrad. Like he came and his messages kind of was the lifeline for me to get back to safety. I attached like a salvific role to him in my life. And because of that I just assumed that he was good at everything. Like that he was a good family man, that he had integrity. Because of that was my interaction. So that's what psychologists call the halo effect. But on the opposite end, when our first interaction with a person is negative, we assume that they are bad in every area. And I liken it to celebrity and cancel culture. The halo effect creates a celebrity culture. The horn effect creates a cancel culture. That they can't be good at anything because they hurt me or hurt someone I know or just hurt someone. And so it's like God is calling us to live in the tension that people can be healing in one aspect and hurting in another. And that's hard for our brain to process.
Yeah. No, it is. It is hard for our brains to it's hard for my brain to process, because it's like, but like God was using them. They spoke truth into my life. I've been deeply edified by their books. I've been deeply edified by their preaching. When I met them, I had a very positive experience, and they spoke a word into my life. Or they were the person who showed up when I was sick and they gave me communion by my bedside, or they came to my house and they sat with me as I grieved the loss of a loved one. And so like God used them in my life, but they had all of this going on in the background. And how am I supposed to now interpret those really, really positive experiences with them in light of their sin? And Lisa, you talk about this in your book, like in terms of like God can use someone who is sinful. Says you're gonna have to help us.
So
have to help us.
If y'all read my first book, y'all know I talk about Clark, who was the guy I dated that we were almost 4 years in a relationship, and then he got married to a woman in the middle of our relationship that he had been having an affair with. So his wife was married to someone else when we were in a relationship, but they were having an affair on the side. She got divorced and they got married. Well, both of them were preachers. So imagine the whole situation. So I talk about that in the first book, how I had to navigate that. But what I learned from that situation was he said that God had given him the gift of prophecy. The crazy thing is, some of the things he told me that God was going to do to my life is happening right now.
Wow.
So he was not wrong.
Said he can speak through a donkey.
Number two, his wife led a revival that one of my friends became a Christian. Like her preaching was so compelling, caused one of my friends to give their life to Christ, and he's still a Christian. And so I talk about living in the tension that God can use someone, and even my hero, he used him tremendously to transform, strengthen the faith, and help a lot of people, but he also caused harm. And I not only see that in my life, in the life of my hero, but I also see that in the life of scripture. Like God is constantly using people that cause harm.
Yeah. No, all the heroes in scripture, every single last one of them has some sort of moral failure. Yeah, no, that's real.
What belief about our heroes, right? I think when it comes to maybe theological belief that we have, what needs to be moved aside, right? Is it that we just believe God only uses people who are perfect? Like,
I think one is like nobody's outside of the possibility of failure. Like, I think my mom always says this to me. She says it only counts if you finish. And she always tells me, you're doing good now, but pace yourself. Salvation or your journey is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And my dad he preached on this a long time ago. He said the enemy will study you for your whole life and wait till you get to a comfortable spot at the top in the end of your life to exploit all of the weaknesses he analyzed that you ignored throughout the course of your life.
My God.
yeah.
And so this thought is like, even as I'm processing my hero failure, I have to say, Lisa, you know what it's like to stay to the foot of the cross because you're suffering, because y'all's trying to raise money. You got this, like, but what happens when you get to a place where you have abundance and you're comfortable and everything is not like so stretched thin? What have you taken care of the small foxes that the enemy can exploit when you're 60? My dad would say that sometimes people haven't even seen their greatest temptation yet. And so knowing that to me brings a level of humility to like, man, what if my hero was faithful through the struggle and the enemy exploited all? He just waited and he's like a lion, like a roaring lion, seeing that little temptation that you let slip by, that you like, that's my pet thing. It's not really a thing. I'm just going to hold that. Or the bitterness that you kind of sit with from the hurt of ministry. And he just was like, I see, I'm stacking it up, stacking the deck. When you're 60, you're not struggling. He just pulls at the thread of all of those things when you're comfortable and you're not as dependent, because he likes to take us down at the top, not the bottom.
If I could sing, I would just sing, draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord. Like right now. Because, you know, we are all, one of my pastors used to say, Josh Reed, he was like, we are all one decision away from doing something utterly stupid. Like we are just all one decision away. And so you can think, what does the scripture say? You can think that you're standing firm lest you fall, right? Like don't get haughty. Don't think that you got it, you know, because as soon as you think that you do, like you will fall. And Liz, I really appreciate that you asked this question, because I think even us as folks who serve in ministry, we can think that we are okay. Right? We can think that we are okay. We can think that that's never going to happen to us. We're never going to do those things. But when one of our heroes falls, or when one of our brothers and sisters who we have, you know, spent time with and we love fall, it does serve as a warning for us, you know, and it shouldn't be just something that, or I would say it shouldn't be something that causes us to condemn that person, but it actually should be something that produces humility in us, to remember that we're all one decision away from doing something really, really hurtful, really, really harmful.
Yeah, like it's like I guess I'm in this space where more than one thing can be true at the same time. right? So you have the dynamic of, for some situations, there needs to be consequences and accountability, that whatever happened needs to be resolved in a way that's appropriate and aligns with what we see in scripture. And that person reminds me of how much I need grace, because I, like, even when you said, Lisa, you just haven't seen the biggest temptation that could come your way. And it's just like, I need the Lord each and every day, and lest it could be me. And so it's just this pairing of how we hold people in the hand of accountability, but also the hand of humility and compassion for one bad decision. For some other people, it's not one, it's many, many decisions that has shattered so many things. And ultimately what the enemy is wanting to do behind all those things, which to me takes a lot of maturity and trust in the Lord, that he is the ultimate hero. That where the people fail, he never will. And there is complexity in how we handle the situations, but it is that humility, because we never stop needing the Lord to keep us and hold us so that we are not walking in the way of temptation, because the enemy is quick and he is crafty, and very patient, like you were talking about, Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to see, like, when we talk about holding people accountable, sometimes we divorce that from love. And it's like, it's loving to hold people accountable. Like, I hold you accountable because I love you. I'm not letting you do these things. I'm not checking you because I just want to check you. I'm checking you because I love you. And I don't want you to continue to harm others, but through you harming others, you're also harming yourself. And so because I love you, my accountability comes from love.
Man, so much of what y'all are saying is putting me in the mind of Micah 6:8, where he says, the Lord has showed you, oh man, what is good, and what it is that the Lord requires of you. Is it not that you would act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God? And it's like, in these moments, these are the three postures that we need to take. We need to act justly. Like, we do need to hold people accountable for the harm that they have done. We need to call those things out. We need to, invite them into a process of repentance and restoration. Absolutely need to do that. And we also need to love mercy, right? Like that, like you said, it doesn't, accountability should not be absent of love. And so there does need to be forgiveness. There does need to be compassion. There needs to be mercy. But Lisa, you said something to me on the phone earlier that I want you to say. Is you talked about how sometimes we don't want accountability. We want
Vengeance.
Yeah.
For sure.
We're not looking for any restorative justice. We're just looking for vengeance.
Oh no, we want punitive justice. We want retributive justice. We want all the other kinds of justice, sis, but we don't want that.
We just ain't got no chill. You will always pay for what you have done. I always think about David, when David takes a census and he's not supposed to. I think it's at the end of 2 Samuel. And the Lord asked him, what mode of judgment do you want? And he's like, I want you to judge me because your people have no mercy. I see it all the time. We do. We just want people to pay and pay and pay and pay forever for what they've done. And that is not the what we see outlined for us in scripture.
Yeah. And it takes a level of, I remember going back to like my ex, Clark. I remember that he apologized to me, and we're cool now, believe it or not. We've seen each other multiple times. It's fine. But I said something smart to him. And I felt like, even after apologizing, I said something smart. And the Lord checked me. He said, you don't get to keep punishing him. And so I had to go apologize to him for being flippant and being sarcastic, because it was a dig. It was an intentional harm, but I didn't get to harm him because he had harmed me, because we had already let that go.
No, that's what forgiveness is, right? It is making the decision to cease the retaliation tactics, and to die to those moments where it's like, ooh, I could really get my lick back. right now if I wanted to, and instead like to extend mercy. But it's hard. It is hard, particularly with those who are in ministry and who have failed, because we do hold them to a higher standard. But like we said, like we are all we all have a sinful nature. We are redeemed, but the flesh still remains. But going back to this idea that there's this warning for us, when our heroes fall, it also just the other warning for me is that what we do is important. Like what we do is important, and how we live doesn't just impact like me, or just impact my family or the people in my immediate spheres of influence, but it also will now impact anyone who's ever read, a book that I've written, or anyone who's ever heard a sermon that I've preached. Like the impact of it is wide. And I've always kind of wondered, I've always found it interesting that when a ministry leader falls, it always disrupts someone's faith, like in a particular kind of way. It disrupts their view of God, and it can even disrupt their view of self, where they start to ask questions like, well, if they can't make it, will I be able, to make it? And it almost seems like this is a very innate sort of natural thing that we as humans do. And so I'm just wondering why you think this is. Why do you think when a ministry leader falls or has some sort of moral failure that it rattles our faith?
Because I think we've misplaced them in our hearts. We've idolized them to a degree. And so it's kind of like, this is this perfect person that doesn't make mistakes. And we know really that's Jesus, right? Jesus is the only perfect person that doesn't make mistakes. But in our mind, this person is perfect, without flaw, that I should follow, because I don't say it out loud, but I think it in my mind like, cool, Jesus is a perfect person we should follow. I can't see Jesus. Like, I can't see God. I can see you. So I want to follow somebody I can see. And I also, in our hearts, we want to be perfect. And so it's like, let me get somebody I can follow that can help me get to that perfection. It's like, we're all fallen humans. So getting to that perfection is impossible. And I think we also want people to carry the weight of our projections, the weight of what we want to be, which is unfair to put on anyone, particularly people that don't know you at all, as Elizabeth was talked about earlier.
No, I remember when I was like, I came to faith when I was 19, and I think I was like maybe 20, and that was like the first time like one of my heroes fell, and this was someone I knew that was in like deep, close relationship with, and I immediately walked away from the faith. Like it was like just like that. I was like, oh, if they can't do it, nope. Like, I'm not going to make it. Because in my mind, I was like, no, I saw them fast. I saw them spend hours on their knees in prayer. I saw them, sharing the gospel with other people. Like, they were living like a Christian life to the full, and they were living the kind of Christian life that I wanted to live. But in my mind, I was like, if they can't do it, then there's absolutely no way that I can do it. And you're absolutely right. Like, I had made an idol of that person, where Jesus is supposed to be the one that I'm following, right? And patterning my life after. It had become more of them. And so I remember, like, I started drinking, I started partying, I just started like just doing whatever, because it made me feel like the Christian life was impossible, that it wasn't possible to actually do it. And this season, like, we're talking about like, is shalom possible. And in these moments when our heroes fall and it disrupts our faith, we really are asking the question, like, is this shalom possible? Is it possible to live the Christian life? Is it possible to endure to the end? Is God's word in the book of Jude that he will, cause us to stand before him blameless? Like, is that actually true? But I love what you're bringing out here, Lisa. It's like when we're doing that, we're also failing to rely on the gospel, right? To be what sustains us and gets us to the other side, that gets us to those peaceful shores. Yeah.
When you think, Lisa, like if somebody's listening and they're like, well, how do I know my hero hasn't fallen yet, or hopefully never will? How do I know if I place somebody in that idol category? What are some things about how we interact with people, especially through parasocial relationships? How do we know when we've idolized a particular person?
I think we should ask ourselves, what have we assumed about their character that we don't know? Like, what do you actually know about the person you're admiring? And most of the time, all we know about them is they're a good communicator. Like, that's what I had to, like, when I scaled back and looked at my hero, I was like, the only thing I really know about him is he's a good communicator. Like, I haven't watched him closely with his wife. I've seen him interact with his kids to some, like, limited capacity. I don't know how he does the interworkings of his business. I don't know all the businesses he has. Like, you know what I'm saying? All I really know when I pull it back is like, this person is a good communicator. And then I have to ask myself, how have I put the weight of so much on someone that I don't know at all?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, why have I put this on this person? Why have I assumed these things about a person? What do I actually know about them? Not what they communicated, because everybody tells these stories about how they were navigating fatherhood, or like, that's only a one-sided view of highlights. Be like, oh, they're such a good spouse. It's like, ask yourself, why is my hero why do I want a hero so distant? And why do I not see anybody in my community that I can admire? Like couple influences are big. Why do I want someone on a podcast that I don't really know to tell me how to steward my marriage when you got couples in your church that have been married 50 years and you won't ask them nothing? Like, what in me is drawn to that, but not people I could actually touch? And I think that's where we have to do the self-discovery.
Thank you for listening to Shalomies. Listen,
Woo!
yes, and yes. Because it is, I think it is, the internet's all about a fantasy and a romanticizing things that just have a veneer of truth. Like, that's just the whole shebang of what we see out there. But what you mentioned, Lisa, about how we value and weigh people's words that are far away versus the people that lead the marriage ministry at your church, or that small group leader who you meet with every week or have access to sign up for the group. And maybe the level of weight we give to each needs to be adjusted. And yeah.
It's because we're able to see their imperfections, like, quickly, because we have personal interaction. Like, the only way for your hero to stay a hero is for them to stay distant. When you meet people, you start realizing, man, sometimes people, like, I remember talking, Show is a good friend of mine. He was like, people move to Atlanta like they gonna hang with me. I'm like, I'm not, like, the way I am on my album, I just be home with my wife and kids. Like, it's like, I'm not finna be hanging out with you. Like, you can move here, but the idea you have from afar, you've idealized our relationship. And then you move here, you're disappointed. Like, oh, he trash. It's like, no, I'm myself. You created this whole world, and you tried to enter that world that was a fantasy. And I think, like, people come up to me like, man, your ministry helped me. I'm like, man, cool. If you hung out with me all day, you might not, I'm not finna be reading books all day. Like, that's not, you might think we gonna be dialoguing about the hypostatic union. We not. Like, it's just like, it's not going to be that. I'm just regular. Like,
we're going to be watching New Jack City. That's what we're going to be
watching New Jack City.
Yes.
No, this is so good. I remember very early on in my walk with the Lord, like reading a book called Changes That Heal. It's by Dr. Henry Cloud. And one of the last sections of the book was, or a chapter was called The Good Bad Split. And it's kind of the halo horn effect, you know. And so we tend to have we tend to go all good on a person or go all bad on a person. But we very often struggle to live in the good bad split. And the truth is that people are a mix of both. We are yes, created in the good image of God, but we are also patterned after the likeness and the image of a fallen Adam, right? And so we have these two things that are taking place in us. And I think this is even why we don't do relationships well, because we don't know how to live in the in between, in the good bad split. We want people to be perfect. Like, we want them, and that's why we keep them at a distance, because as soon as they start to come closer, we see their imperfections. But the question is, how do we live in duality, that people are both good and sinful? They're both fallen and sinful. And it's almost like we have to, with anyone, remember that the scriptures say there's no one good but God. Like, that's it. He is the only perfect being. Everyone else is going to fall short of your expectations. You know, they're not going to just fall short of the glory of God. They also going to fall short of your expectations. And we have to hold those things in tandem with people who are in our real life, and then even the people who exist in our parasocial reality, so that we don't have this halo or horn effect with them. Lisa, I want to pivot here a little bit, because in reading your book, what I'm about to share was probably like the most impactful part of your book for me. And so there's this one aspect of your book where we're in the chapter Loving Victims and Villains. And you call the readers not only to extend mercy and forgiveness towards villains, towards their hero who has fallen, but you also call us to seek the restoration of those who have been directly impacted by that fallen hero's abuse and betrayal. I think one that's so good, because you are calling us, particularly if this person, it is a parasocial relationship, like you are calling us to decenter ourselves and to be a part of this community of lament, that, hey, somebody has been harmed. This person has betrayed their family. This person has betrayed their church, you know? And so how do we sit with those who are in grief, those who have been directly impacted, and also seek the restoration of them? And I guess this meant so much to me, because I was once in a situation where I'm a part of a church and I'm on staff there, and one of the ministry leaders has a moral failure, and as a result of that, like, it is going to significantly impact my life. Like, I will lose my job, I'll lose financial security. Like, it's gonna be tough for me. And we're sitting in this meeting with some of the members from our church, and we're walking through the restoration plan for this person. Mm-hmm. And someone just sort of types into the Zoom, well, what about Yana's restoration plan? Mm-hmm. Bro, they couldn't see me, my camera was off, but like just literal tears. And I was like, wow, like, yes, like I need to be restored too. However, when we're particularly in church contexts where a ministry leader or a pastor has fallen, we tend to have this conversation about how do we restore this person back to their position, right? We sort of create this process, so that they can be restored back to their place of leadership and ministry in the church. However, we often don't have a restoration plan for the people who have been victimized, who have been hurt by this person's actions. And I'm just curious to know what y'all's thoughts are on why we do this. Like, why do you think the church has majored on the restoration of fallen heroes more than victims? And what do you think have been the consequences of churches functioning in this way?
Yeah, I think we do that because simply we see the hero as more important. Like, we see that person as more valuable, like as more of an asset. So it's like, oh, if we get this person better, we could get them back to their place. They helped us bring so many people to the kingdom. They impact our bottom line. We need them to function as an organization. We don't necessarily need the member or they are replaceable. So there's in our minds, there's this value that we're weighing. That who has the most value, who has the most worth. And that shows that we've deified them because all of us are humans and worthy of value. The only person that would carry more weight is if this person is more than human, right? In our minds. And so I think that's one of the ways that we reveal if we've misplaced them. Also, too, I think we miss in every scenario where the hero is falling, we either identify more with the villain or the victim. We're triggered in different ways. So if you over-identify with the villain or the hero, you may be doing something that you're trying to keep hidden. So you like, I can't talk about theirs because I got my own. You're overdoing it on empathy because it's really, I want that kind of grace for me, or I need to cover up what I got going on. So that's one. Some of us over-identify with the victim because we're not healed from our past traumas in places we've been victimized. Yeah. So in both the situations, we're actually inserting ourselves and centering ourselves in other people's traumas and failures. And so what I'm calling in the book, how do I decenter myself so I can actually help the person that's being harmed? If I go in there and I'm reliving my trauma because they've been traumatized, I'm not helping them. I'm actually causing hurt. And it's like, they're telling you this person hurt me. And you're like, yeah, I remember when Clark hurt me and I was betrayed too. And all these leaders always falling. And I gotta you're constantly talking about your pain. And this person is sitting here like, yo, I'm the one hurt here. We see this happen on social media all the time. People use people's traumas as a springboard to talk about all the stuff that happened in their childhood on social media. You're like, well, I thought we was talking about this person. It's like, oh no, you wanted an outlet and you've actually decentered the person that's hurt to talk about your hurt. And God is like, because I'm so God, I can use this to heal all of y'all. And I can say, this is exposing the places that are not healed in me. I'm going to do the work to be healed in this area. Then I'm going to come to the person that was harmed and say, how can I serve you best in this? What can be done? What does healing look like for you? How can I serve you? You need me to speak up? But I do that from a decentered place, actually centering the person that's actually been hurt. And I think that's the importance of healing before approaching these things in a healed posture versus approaching it in a broken one where you're you're centering yourself in other people's lives.
Yeah, I would echo kind of what Lisa said. I think that if we're honest, we value the hero more than we value the people that the hero is supposed to be serving. And many times it is because of the money or prestige that hero is bringing in. I also think sometimes when you have these moral failures happening, it highlights things in the church that are underdeveloped. So it could be issues of abuse. It could be issues of financial mismanagement. It could be a whole range of things that require a level of maturity and depth and even expertise to parse through. And the reality is the church they just ain't in it like that. Or they don't want to talk about it like that, right? And so I think it's not all the time, but I think about the ways in which sometimes it can be harm against women in the church. But then we need to address how we really view women and value women. And it's just easier to deal with one person than to deal with all these other things that require the church as a whole to mature, to be able to have really it's leaning into whole life discipleship. Even the story work that you're talking about, Lisa, for us to not just teach people Bible study methods. I love that. I love teaching people theology. But how does this stuff work out in your life, with your family of origin, with your pain and your wounds, that you can be a more mature person holistically? And it's easier to put somebody on a plan, hide them away for a couple of months, and then bring them back. Or I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do what Lisa just said don't do. So...
we think of restoration. I talk about in the book, restoring people to a position. Restoration is about restoring people to a path. They might not need to get the position of the platform. It just might not be healthy for them or the people. Like that just may not be their gift to lead people well. Because of their weaknesses, they might never need to get to that platform or position. But we can restore you to a path, a healthy relationship with God, healthy relationship with your family, a restorative relationship with those who you've harmed. That should be the goal. And unfortunately, we don't usually focus on the path. We usually focus on restoration as the position or the platform. And we think if you don't get that, you haven't been restored. It's like, nah. What does your life look like? That's what we're trying to work out. Yeah. The other stuff is later.
Yeah. And I mean, it goes back to like, that is the most loving thing that we can do, right? If people are just trying to restore you to a position, that's not love, they're just using you, if they just trying to get you back in the pulpit,
Yeah, that's like, crisis management.
Right, that's crisis management. That's not really like love and restoration. But that is a harder road that many people won't be willing to take because they're like, whoa, you trying to like you really want me to transform? Like they may not really want to take that journey, and that's harder work even for the people who are maybe doing that plan, walking alongside of them. And so, yeah.
Lisa, can I think I've just had this question as I've read through your book, because this topic is vast. There are many directions you could have taken with kind of talking about this topic of church hurt and with parasocial relationships and the people that we revere so much fall from grace. You could have taken this principle, like here are a bunch of principles, and I'm going to do this case study of all these different people. But it felt like you chose to make a very personal journey with the reader. Why was that your choice? To share so many of your stories. At the end of every chapter, you have these questions that it seems like you're sitting across a coffee and you're like processing the chapter with the person. You could have chose any direction for the book. Why is that the direction that you chose to talk about this?
Because I think potency comes from personal testimony. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to write about theories. I want to write about what God has took me through.
Yeah.
We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I think God allowed this to happen in my life to show me, reveal to me things about other people. But it's like my therapist always says this. When I started therapy with her, she let me get it out about the people that hurt me and all that. And then she pivoted and she said, okay, they're not my client. You are my client. Mm-hmm. So what do you need to do better? Who does God want you to become? Yeah. And that is what I want most for the book. It's like, I understand how painful it is, but we can't do anything about what another person has done. if we continue to stay stuck where they hurt us, we will often repeat the hurt that they inflicted on others. What do you need to do? What does God want you to do? What is he trying to teach you about you? And I think through this, God has taught me so much about myself, where it's like I went in, if I had wrote this book when this first happened, it would have looked like a totally different book. Because I would have been writing out of I would have been bleeding on people. Yeah. But when I got to the end of this book, I was like, man, where I judged him, I saw myself a little bit. It's like, man, when he said, Lisa, make sure your private and public life match. I'm like, man, how hypocritical are you? And then I think about the story of me speaking at Princeton and I'm like killing it on stage, and I get off stage and my friend says to me, man, I wish I knew that Lisa, because that Lisa's a dynamic communicator, and that's not what I'm experiencing from you in conflict. And then I realized that I'm communicating well, but I'm not living well. Yeah. And that gap has caused harm. And so if I can know here, I'm not even doing this consciously. Then when I look at my hero, I'm like, what are ways that he was doing unconscious harm and then started doing conscious harm? Because it starts with the unconscious, that you're in this gap of like, I don't know I'm hurting people unless you're just a real evil person. And then it switches to like, I'm actually hurting people. And this is intentional because it went unchecked for so long.
Yeah.
And so, so that's a long answer to your question.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you. Thank you so much for writing this necessary and timely resource for us, helping us to think through how our faith endures. How do we hold on to our faith in the aftermath of one of our heroes falling? Friends, the book, it will be available on Amazon by the time that this episode comes out. And so it's called When Heroes Fall. It's written by Lisa B. Fields. Let's run it up, y'all. Let's run it up. Sis, congratulations on your second book. I know it will be the second of many. One of the things that we're doing this season is that whenever we have a guest, we're going to ask them the question of in what ways are you cultivating shalom in your life? And so, what are some ways in which you are cultivating shalom in your life right now, friend?
Yeah. One of the ways is really having honest conversations with how other people experience me. We assume we know how we are being experienced, but it is humbling to say, how is this person experiencing me? Because my intention could be, I'm trying to do well, but there are other people experiencing me in different ways. And so it's like, how can I step in the shoes of how other people are experiencing me and make adjustments and repent for the ways in which I've caused harm unintentionally.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I love that space of self-awareness. Friends, we are inviting you to take some time to think and act upon what you have just heard with each week's episode. And so for this week, we want to invite you to think about your heroes, particularly the people that you might see online. You might like their posts and repost their videos. And the questions that Lisa presented for us of kind of how do we weigh what they say in our lives versus the thing that people say who are closest to us. And maybe there are some areas of adjustment that you need to make. So don't just think about it on your own. Invite your friend into a conversation because we always learn more when we do it together. Thank you for listening to another episode of Shalomies. If you are interested in learning more information about this episode, feel free to check out the show notes. Also, we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to message us on Instagram or shoot us an email at podcast@thewoodsoninstitute.org. And don't forget, hit subscribe wherever you listen or watch the episode because it helps people find us and connect with us. Until next time, grace and peace, y'all.